Guys, let's call public meeting to order. Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Craig Scott,
Here.
Mark Serbrook,
Present.
Ron Vaughn,
Present.
Brad Newbecker, Jenny David.
Here. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I have none.
Item 2, public comments. There's not anybody in the room that doesn't know the rules or on the phone. So is there any public
There you
comment?
go.
There's a lot of, any public comment in the room? This is on agenda items only. Any public comment on the phone? Item 3, appointments. 3A, we have Mike Bowers, Emergency Management Coordinator related to service invoice. Come on, Mr. Bowers. Hi, how are you?
Real good. Yourself?
Good, thank you.
Everybody doing well, I assume?
Thank you for joining us.
So I actually, it's been a really long time since I spoke to you guys about the goings on with the emergency management and what's been happening. But I had a conversation with Tim a couple, 3 weeks ago. And, last month we had those two hazardous material spills that were like 9 days apart. One up on M33 and Sage Lake Road, and the other one down on Greenwood Road in Skidway Lake Mills Township. And emergency management responded to both of those for the hazard material spills part. And it made me realize that given the right situation and a large amount of spill, the county itself could end up on the hook. So financially. So, when one of these happens, we call out an environmental company. And the environmental company bills the company or the person who created the spill, their insurance company or whatever. But some of the other logistics, when we start talking about environmental cleanups and hazardous materials, we could end up needing security and having police on scene. We could end up needing to supply toiletries and stuff for first responders, long periods of time. We could end up having to have staging areas, press staging areas. I mean, we could incur actual real expenses during this. So it's my thought that you guys might be interested in creating some kind of a policy or a protocol to put into place in the case of a hazardous material spill to be able to recoup these expenses.
There's currently not one.
There's currently not one. So I've checked around with the EMHSD and they said there are a few counties out in the state of Michigan that do this. And they also can include their expenses for the response of the emergency management team also. So you would also be able to do that. And it can be argued, we're a county government delivering a service with emergency management, which is true, but in extenuating circumstances, circumstances where accidents happen, then, that is not actually part of the emergency management's daily operations. Those are extra operations that would not have occurred had human interference not happened within the system. So anyhow, it's just something I think you guys might want to look at, whether or not you want to create a policy. Just to open up the door doesn't mean you have to charge anybody anything. But without that, you may get stuck with the bill.
What would be the downfall of not doing this?
Getting stuck with the bill.
The downfall.
Okay, so let me break it into an emergency or a disaster. So, and you guys are already all aware because you dealt with it 2 years ago, year and a half ago. So an emergency or a disaster happens. If it does not qualify for state funding or it does not qualify for FEMA funding, the county gets stuck with the bill.
How does that happen? I'm not following. Where do we enter into a situation or an emergency where we would end up assuming responsibility for cost? We aren't the first responders. Typically, it'd be your fire and EMS who would be dealing with that. Certainly, we might have sheriff patrol out there, but they're already obviously on the payroll, et cetera. How do we end up being liable for other costs like cleanup and so on?
Well, no, not cleanup. The environmental company will bill the insurance company or the person, people who were responsible for the accident happening. But some of the other logistic things like setting up staging areas, places for the press, management of the scene itself.
So this would have to be a fairly large disaster.
It could. But if somebody dumped a tanker into Skidway Lake and, 10,000 gallons of petroleum dumped into Skidway Lake and then ran into Mud Creek and then down into the Rifle River before it all got stopped, then you're going to have a parade of environmentalists coming into the area.
Isn't that when Red Cross would step in?
Well, Red Cross wouldn't, Red Cross does human services. That would not be Red Cross, but Eagle would be here. And we would be calling in EMHSD and Michigan State Police in extreme circumstances,
You haven't said anything yet that, in my mind, triggers a county cost. Outside of maybe if you're on the scene and helping to coordinate or what have you.
I could see where there could be overtime costs for security, sheriff's officers. Because the state police can't handle it all, even though they're involved in that side of it. But,
Right.
I look at what happened, when the dams broke. Every law enforcement agency in the world, again, there's no money to be recouped from that company that owned that dam. But still, we've got, the potential around here. We've got, a gas plant out there,
You said every law enforcement did what when that dam broke? I guess, did they assist? Is that what?
They were out there for my wife's niece's husband is a state trooper at the Tri-City Post. They were out there for a week of working 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that was
just-
what backs that up though.
Tons of overtime,
Almost
you know.
insurance policy, you almost gotta have.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be able to put away cash money into a reserve.
No.
Just in case something like this
I think what he's
happens.
asking
Have
for
enough-
is just a policy that we can attempt to recoup our expenses.
Well,
Is that right, Mike? Am I?
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
already there.
Policy to recoup expenses if they were to occur.
And how many
And-
county, I'm sorry.
And I don't think you guys should be making a decision on this tonight. I just wanted to bring it out into the open and have that thought. And the thought occurred to me because on that second accident, there was involvement of flowing water. And I mean, it was such a small amount of petroleum that we were able to stop it before it got to the flowing water.
Well, that was there in Skidway Lake there a week or two ago
Yes.
too.
Yes.
So that was
So,
a tanker or
and-
something.
Correct, and that would have went into Mud Creek and directly from there into the Rifle River. So
Can you give us some drafts or templates of what other counties are doing?
I will, yeah, absolutely. Like I said tonight, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that was a thought, something you guys might want to or might not want to consider somewhere in the future. And then I just want to tell you about a few of the things that are going on in emergency management. So I just received a $2,000 grant for CERT teams. That's going to be for the regional CERT team, starting off with Ogemaw, Aranac, and Oscoda counties. Our first training will be in January. We have not set the final date for the first training in January to start bringing community emergency response teams back into the community to be able to help with things such as like that disaster or the fair or parades or many other gatherings. So I am now certified by FEMA as an emergency manager. I have completed the professional development program from FEMA and have my certificate, and working towards my professional emergency manager's license with the state of Michigan. I am now certified as a Michigan MSP PIO. So I've been through their training to be a public information officer for the state of Michigan.
Congratulations.
So collaborating with the Treasury Department, I'm going to put some flyers out there, some pamphlets for emergency management. I think I'm going to start off with focusing on our public alerting program, trying to inform the public about the public alerting program, and to sign up for Smart 911. Some of you may have read the paper today. I started a quarterly editorial in the newspaper. Once a quarter, I'm going to do an article from the desk of emergency management and try to update the public on things and try to get the public a little more involved with the emergency management, because that's really the key to our success there. So the ARPA grants, they just sent out, MSP just sent out on the NPG grant, which is where you guys get a 30% refund on my wages from the state of Michigan. They just sent out a notice. They're going to add an extra 17% from last year, paid out this year, which will amount to a little over $3,400 to you in reimbursement of my pay wages. So, in December, we're going to be doing a live exercise with Mid-Michigan West Branch. I've been assisting them with putting it together. We're going to have a lot of departments involved: EMS, state police, West Branch City, the sheriff's department, emergency management, and the hospital. At Mid-Michigan, we're gonna do an active shooter out of their now defunct building, and then transport over to the hospital. And it's part of it's part of the hospital certifications, but I saw it as a great opportunity to see how our individual departments work under that. So I think I left out fire departments will be involved in this also. I believe I sent you a notice on it. I know I did, Tim. And really, for you guys, I'm not going to activate an EOC training for this. I think we need to do an EOC training, but I think we need that training to be an EOC training and not muddled up with another, an actual emergency that we're trying to train for at the same time. So I'll work on getting us an EOC training in the spring. That's all I have, unless you guys have some questions for me.
Did you talk to him about that generator?
I did talk to him about the generator.
Yes.
And I told Mark that I'm all but positive I can get it to qualify.
I would think so.
And
Would that be in a shelter? That's a emergency shelter, right?
That's my understanding, and Mike's gonna check into that.
Yes.
My recollection back in the day was that it was,
So that if it's a shelter, if it's registered as a shelter, it's almost definitely registered as a shelter with the American Red Cross.
Mhm.
And EMHSD will say, yeah, so, but I think I can get to qualify anyway.
and
So,
what I talked to him about was, typically it's matching funds, so
Yeah,
if we can, if he
exactly.
can get us some money, we can utilize some ARPA funds, to make it happen,
right.
so.
Currently, with money that we have coming in, I started a conversation back up with the courts about updating the camera system in this building and getting the camera system actually up and running. Last I remember, I think they needed 8 new cameras inside and outside the building in order to get rid of the blind spots in the building with the camera system. But I'm sure that's not going to take all the money that I have currently. And, every time I get rid of money, they give me more. So
Keep spending it.
that's right.
Thank you, sir.
You all have a great evening.
Nice
Thank
seeing you.
so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh,
One more.
I was gonna walk out. I was gonna bring it up, but
So we have a 28-year paramedic retiring
Oh,
the day
wow.
after Thanksgiving. And.
who's happened to be Carol Bowers.
Yep,
I
wife.
brought it up.
but EMS is having a farewell party at the China Inn at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. You all are very welcome. Would love to see you.
Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. at the
It's
China Inn.
Dutch, by the way. EMS is
Yeah,
not paying.
it is
EMS is
Dutch.
not paying for it. They can't.
What does Dutch mean?
You're buying your own,
Buy your own.
buy your own.
Yeah,
Okay, just
yeah.
Dutch treat.
just
pay-
say
you
it.
pay your own.
Had to come by yourself.
So,
Are the drinks free?
Don't worry.
The water and the tea are free.
thank you all.
Okay.
You all have a great night. Now. Be safe.
Thank you. Okay, come on up, guys. 3B, we have the counseling service agreement. In front of the court. I was being serious.
And just a small correction to that, we're here to talk about the child care fund,
Okay,
actually in counseling services through that. Do you want to kick off or do you want me to kick off? Go ahead.
You got the fancy.
These fancy graphs. So as we approach the completion of the building, or as we've been approaching the completion of the building here for a while now, we started looking at our mental health services provider and who we were using at the time, which was Bridges of Northern Michigan out of Cadillac. We met with them and we weren't sure that they really had the buy-in that we wanted to be able to provide the services that we were going to need for the new building. So we started looking and ended up meeting with an organization called Partners in Change out of Midland. That is a much more broad-based, intensive provider than what we've had in the past. In speaking with them and ultimately in contracting with them, we realized a couple of things that brought some information for you. This is a group that would be we'd be using their services in an attempt to keep youth in the community, as opposed to putting them into long-term residential treatment. So what I did was put together just a couple of numbers for you to show what we pay, what we have paid for youth to be in long-term care or long-term treatment in the past, and what Partners in Change is saying that they need to intensively treat the youth here locally in the community. Looking at Pioneer Work and Learn and Shawana, you can see they're both over $100,000 to place a youth there for a year. We have had youth in care for that length of time, if not longer. Sometimes with Shawana, I know we had a kid, I think at least 3 years that are coming out and aren't necessarily coming out better. So when we look to Partners in Change, in that same year, we would spend $30,000. And actually, we would only realize half of that. It is reimbursable through the child care fund. But that's their number that they gave to us to say, this is what we think it's going to cost to give intensive treatment to a family for that time period.
For the most intensive kids.
Yeah, you steal some bubble gum from the store, we're not going to put you into the Partners in Change program. It's really going to be for the kids that we need, would otherwise be placed into care. That would be that we would need to do that with. With Partners in Change, you have a community-based program as opposed to the youth being moved out of the community. Unlike our current, what was our provider, they really focus on the family much more intensively and bring them in from the get-go to treat the whole family, which is something that we've had somewhat, but it just hasn't been enough with our current provider. And that certainly doesn't happen when we place somebody, at the bottom of the state. It's hard to get families to have the time to go down and participate in the youth's treatment. Partners in Change would be, those youth would be supervised by court staff. So our juvenile probation officers would supervise them as opposed to us handing them over to the Department of Health and Human Services to be supervised. The list of services is extensive. 3 times a week counseling. The family comes in once a week. There's monthly team meetings with everybody who has a hand on the youth to try to get them more socially adaptable. Well, that's exactly the right word. But when they're in a placement, we really don't have control over those services in any manner. Partners in Change looks to partner with community mental health, the schools, us. They really, partners is in their title. There's a reason for that. And when we send somebody out, they're really focused on what happens within that facility and the treatment they can provide there. There isn't as much reach out. So the bang for the buck for a much less expensive enterprise is very good. Not that it all comes down to the dollar. The treatment level is also significantly improved, at least based on what we've seen on paper. I mean, we're moving forward, but.
Like I say, the goal is to not be putting these kids in these residential placements to treat them across the street. That's our whole goal on this. So there may be a point where we have to shift some money that was in the funds for the residential treatment to the counseling services. So at some point you might need a budget adjustment signature. I don't know exactly how it goes, but from my understanding, putting it in the fund for counseling, it makes it at 100 or 50% reimbursable. So you actually end up saving money in the long run. But so I guess that's what we're here for, just to let you know that there may be some moving of money, I guess, requests to move from the account that we pay, the child care fund that we pay.
From the institutional care line
Institutional
item
care item.
into our counseling line item. The institutional care line item is a flat cost because the state pays it first. So if we have $100,000 in that account, that means we're budgeted to pay $100,000. If I move $100,000 into the counseling account, we get 50% of that back. So it shifts the money a little bit, which is, as we look at it, again, isn't what necessarily we're going for, but it's just an added bonus to the program, which is really what we're focused on.
So it's just like I say, it's kind of a heads up that this might be coming, that we might need to shift some funds into the counseling line item and out of the institutional care line item. I can't guarantee we're going to avoid institutional care altogether. We have some kids that are been in there. Like two of them, we actually just got out of Shawano, and they're both not doing real well, and they're probably looking at going back to something not to Shawano, but. So I can't guarantee there's not going to, that cost it down to zero, but it's going to, obviously the goal is to bring it way down. We didn't use all of our money in that line item for this year, or last year, I should say. So we have a pretty good grasp that, okay, but we're just, like I said, just bringing it to your attention right now that we're probably going to need some more, shift some money into that line item at some point too.
Line item adjustment.
Is that what it
Yes.
is, Tim? I don't know.
Might jump a fund, right?
Are they?
Correct. Yeah, it might jump a fund.
So you'll see it at
It's
a
not just
quarterly
line
adjustment.
item.
Yeah.
So
Budget
that's why I think a
adjustment.
signature might be.
And the signature is required because anytime you increase a line item in the child care fund, that is an offset by something that's already in the child care fund, which is where the institutional line item is not in the reimbursable part of the child care fund. When we increase that number, it requires a signature from the board chair in order to do that. And we just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that that very likely is coming. It's in order to kick off with Partners in Change, so that we have the money ready to roll, as they're already starting the groundwork and getting the first 3 families ready to start counseling. We're going to use an alternative facility until our building is done. And they've been working very, very well with us. They're quite a.
It's going to be interesting to see a year from now, how much money the county has saved.
That's the goal. And obviously the needs of the youth are first, but
Well,
we're
absolutely.
hoping that this Partners in Change is,
Really
it's
something.
very impressive, I don't
I
know.
utilize them quite a bit.
Yeah, they're
I'm very, very
very
happy.
impressive, and they have
Yes.
this all-in approach. I think they even call it an all-in report or
Mhm.
something like that,
Yeah.
where intensive, especially at the start, really intensive, and they scale it back.
And they do focus on family.
And I know the Midland County.
We talked about this before, about hopefully doing something like this so that we treat the entire family, not just
Right,
that.
right, that's what they do.
And our prior provider did make every attempt to have family counseling, but really when they lay out how their program works, it is right from the get-go, and then everybody's involved, and it was something to see. So.
And they have enough staff to staff
Hire
this?
somebody especially for us.
Oh, wow, so
Yeah,
based here
yeah.
full time?
From.
Ogemaw County.
Oh,
So within
okay.
20 minutes of our first meeting, they had
They had
posted
posted a
on
job opening
the job opening to
hire somebody
here. locally.
Wow,
in our community that way we're not paying drive time from
Right.
Midland and stuff like that. So I don't know, if they officially hired that lady or.
My understanding is that it was official, but then I wasn't
haven't
sure if
heard
it was,
anything, so
but
I'm not gonna
there-
say.
Right, right.
whether she had started training or whether that training was successful is certainly
Well, she's
something
from Ogemaw
we haven't heard,
County.
but she's, and has been a long-term person in mental health, who is familiar with our families and has worked in this type of a wraparound program before, where we're kind of coming at the family from every angle and trying to give as many services as we can.
well, in the long term, is the money it's gonna save with focusing on the family and stopping some of these cycles, which
Mhm.
we see a lot of.
Yeah, correct.
Has any surrounding counties or anybody reached out to, because people are talking about this, and I think that the nearest facility is Midland and then Alpena for what we're doing with this daytime treatment center.
So Midland, this is a very, very small, tiny comparison to what Midland has.
Oh,
which is a fully
absolutely, absolutely,
functioning,
correct.
Day treatment center
Yep.
where they also have secure detention.
Yep.
So if a kid goes into secure detention, then they're going to get schooling and counseling right directly on the property. No, we haven't reached out. We did reach out to the judge in Midland just to make sure that Partners in Change was an outfit that we wanted to partner with. And the response was,
Go for, yeah, they were very positive.
Yeah.
Like I say, we're kind of, until it's up and going, I hate to start bragging about it because I. wanna make-
No, my question was if anybody has reached out to you guys, because people are talking
Not to
about it.
me. Like I say, I've reached out to the judge in Doreen Allen and asked her opinion of Partners in Change but as far as nobody's contacted me yet, I don't know. if they-
are you thinking for people that for coming from outside the community
Yeah.
to use our facility?
Yeah, not anytime soon,
Yeah.
but I'm just mean in the future.
We haven't. I don't think we've really
Not there.
broadcast. There you go. That's
Understand.
the.
Is it separation from Bridges? So are we separating from them?
No, we
Not
signed a
totally.
contract with them because there are some services they provide that we still think are valuable.
Okay.
And they were more than willing to take it on a step-by-step basis
Okay.
and
Reduced rate, but
reduced rate with the contract.
that's the expectation they're gonna get all the counseling,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
They do a lot of assessments for us and
Uh-huh.
those are very beneficial, so.
So in a year, can you come back with data? Once this is up and running and going well, can you come back with the financial data? Of just how resourceful this is?
Yes. So all of that is going to, the plan is to track all of that. So if a kid that we would have sent to, put into the department and sent to in comparison, we'll have that for you. The other piece that we didn't talk about is the school preventative program where they're also going to be in our school system, working with kids who have yet to come into the court system, which we have been doing for 2 years with Bridges. That's been probably our most successful program. None of those youth we've seen come through on a petition for delinquency of the list of kids that we have. We weren't really tracking it is probably as good as we should have been for that first chunk, but moving forward, everything is going to be tracked. So we'll be able to.
That was grant money, right? Wasn't that grant money for the?
It's the basic grant. So yes, so we get $15,000 a year because we're a rural community because we're a rural community, we get $15,000 a year that we can use for any program as long as it meets certain criteria. We used to use that to supplement our juvenile probation department. 2 years ago, we switched it over into this program with Bridges where we do preventative counseling in the schools to try to keep kids out of the court.
And the schools and Bridges had a falling out.
And
so-
yeah, unfortunately.
So this Bridges isn't allowed in the schools anymore. So now we're trying to,
Our school or schools?
our school.
Okay,
And so now we're trying to foster a relationship with Partners in Change to go do what Bridges used to do in the school. And I got a pretty good in there, so I'm hoping that that's gonna work out, so.
And the school match is the $15,000 to handle youth under 10, which we're not allowed to as the courts. So we can't use money for youth under 10. they have money that they can. So we're hitting kids right through school, kindergarten through, all the way through high school. If someone's in crisis or having an issue, we can try to address that before they ever come before the judge.
What's this, like, what is your guys' goal to have this open and running? This facility?
Our understanding is December 31st.
okay.
But it was originally September 1st. Materials problems, and now hunting
Right.
season, the electrician couldn't do something. And
Yeah.
so it's one thing after the handicap shower
Insert
stuff wasn't,
Yeah.
was backward without tape.
heat.
That's important.
Mishcon couldn't get in. It's just.
One thing after, understandable. I was just looking for a
December
goal.
31st.
Because we haven't heard much. It looks
First of the
good,
year.
so
Yeah.
very exciting.
We've been in multiple times. We've picked out
Picked the
countertops
floor,
and
Good,
cabinets.
Paint color.
Okay.
Great.
thank you.
So
Thank you.
So if you just need me to just drop me an email,
Yep.
text, whatever you need, just, I can swing in and sign something, or you send.
Yep.
Okay. Make it work.
We'll make
Thanks,
it
Tim.
work. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Mr. Blamer, come on up. I had some questions.
I've got 4 estimates for a new scanner for the transit. And we have a grant. That's the grant's P11. I have the actual grant here. And it's for, what's that?
They have it too.
Yeah, $8,700. So I don't know how they're in order on there. The automotive, this was the only scanner they could get, and it's $3,700. It's basically a cheap scanner. Yearly updates are $1,100. That probably didn't come out too well, did it? This one.
No, I couldn't read it. It looks like 37,1990,
Yeah. Then,
and that was the cheapest. You said that's a cheap scanner?
oh, that's a cheap scanner. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's it. You don't want that one, right? Okay,
No.
because there's a pretty significant price difference. I
Basically, when I applied for this grant, which was probably more than 2 years ago, I talked to Snap-on about it, and he told me about how much a good quality scanner would be. So that's where the money for the grant came from. So I do have another quote from Advanced Auto Parts and from, where's the other one? From Napa. And now they have access to a little bit better scanner. And it looks like that Napa's is about $5,700. Yearly updates are $1,700. And Advanced, their scanner, they did knock it down a little bit, still $5,700. And their yearly updates are $1,695 also. These people don't know anything about these scanners. They just don't. They'll sell them to you, but other than that, that's as far as they're going to go with them. To get your updates, you'll have to go purchase a card from them and hope that it works. It's just not a good plan to buy that way. I would prefer to buy the Snap-on one, and it is $8,028. But the updates for current loyalty would be $950 a year versus $1,249 for this one, and then all the others were $1,700, and that cheap one was $1,100. I mean, the way I look at it, we have the grant, it is specified for electronic bus scanner. You can't spend a penny of this money on anything else.
Isn't there 2 here? I'm looking at the first 2 from Mr. Martin, who's local, which is nice. The first one is $8,028, and then the second one
Right,
from Mr. Martin as well that has Snap-on
right.
for $5,995.
And that one is a 2-channel scope. And the one that we want to get is a 4-channel scope. He's got that written over here on this side. Basically, we ran into this in years past where the scanner, we're using our mechanic scanner. He purchased it himself. Until 2 years ago, he was paying for his own updates. So we're now paying for his updates anyway, but where was I going with this? Oh, so we've had to take a bus to someone that had a good quality scanner to scan it to see what was wrong because his scanner wouldn't do it. So I don't know about this personally, but he's telling me that a 4-channel scope will analyze more efficiently. You know how a scanner works? You just plug it into the bus, into the electronics of the bus or into the brain of the bus, and it tells you what's wrong with it. So the more channels or scope channels they have, the deeper it can dive into the issues that are wrong with the bus. But I don't know about that. I'm not a mechanic, so. So basically, I say spend the money we have on this. This is a good quality scanner.
What's your
Also-
grant, what's your grant dollars, right?
8,700.
So to pay.
So it pays for all.
Oh, yeah, I'll pay for it.
Okay, no brainer.
And I don't know if I can even do anything with the other 700. MDOT's really frowning on changing the grant once it's,
Sure.
they don't want to deal with it. So
How much do you pay for updates now for your?
we pay 1,200.
Okay.
So that's what Thomas Martin said for current loyalty, he will charge us $950 per year, but it'll have to be done every year because with a scanner, if there wasn't any real updates, like we didn't get any new buses, we really wouldn't have to update it. But we should, just to keep it updated. I don't think we'll ever have to buy another scanner, but there again, I don't know.
It's always new codes.
Yes.
So can we put this on? Are you guys okay with this?
Yeah.
Can we put this on for a resolution for next week?
So can I tell him to go ahead tomorrow or he'll be there tomorrow? He stops every week.
He's local. He's a good guy.
Yeah, okay, good.
I mean, I didn't say yes. I just said,
Oh,
Board needs to vote on it on Tuesday.
Yeah, she said yes.
no.
We voted down, it comes out of Jenny's check.
Right. It's nice that you're this local. And again, I know Mr. Barton.
all righty, thank you. See you all.
Thanks, Ray. Item 4, discussion items. We got 4A ORV ordinance.
We have the iPads, the comments that have come in so far. Road Commission is going to discuss this at one of their next meetings and will reply as well. Brad was good enough to send me a copy of comments that came from one of the townships. That's on here now. You should be able to see it. And so I'll just continue to put those on these committee of the whole meeting agendas. Probably want to continue taking your comments through December, and then we'll gather them all up in January and formulate a plan for what we want to do for the ordinance.
Sounds good to me.
You've only gotten 2, correct? Did I
We have
miss?
the 2 so far, but I've had 2 phone calls too. I want to say it was Logan Township that also called in. They want to talk about it as a board, which I said this went to the supervisors, but we didn't intend just for the supervisors to reply. We want the general comment from the entire board. So they'll have it on a future agenda as well. I suspect a few others will too.
I was at Clacking Township yesterday and the supervisor put it to the board and they discussed it a little bit. So I doubt you're gonna hear anything back from Clacking Township, to be honest with you, because they were like, well, there's nobody enforcing it. So what difference does it make what we say? I said, well, we want your comments, please. I said, you guys are one of the 2 big townships that are affected by this, Foster being the other one, because that's where the majority of that traffic, because they've got that sport trail center up there. You got a big trail system that comes through. So I said, please, consider providing us some feedback, whether it's the hours of operation, whatever, I said, just don't think just because there was not much enforcement this year for whatever that reason was, I said, don't discount it, please. So.
Any comments?
Just the fine and the court costs, $250 to fix damage on a road seems a bit on the low side if they really did do enough damage to make it unsafe. I would think that it would be the cost of repair, court costs, and a $250 fine if it's worth prosecuting.
Yeah, I'd say actual cost of damage if it exceeds.
Then the road commission would probably be able to give us a
They'll
good
give the
estimation.
yeah, victim impact statement. I mean, it's, you know, they should, well, it's a civil infraction, so they would do a victim impact statement, I guess.
Do you know, I'm sorry, do you know if they used all that grant money for this past year?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, I'm pretty sure they did.
Did they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, looking at the budget, I think they did.
Just wondering.
I'll look it up.
Anything else? So all the townships got letters.
I believe I had contact with every municipality, so townships and the cities as well.
Good, good, good. Okay. Item 4B, the ARPA.
Okay, you have the list that's sitting there. Mr. Sheridan from the library dropped off a letter this afternoon concerning an urgent expense that they're facing with an elevator. I did invite him here today to talk about that more, but you've got the handout that should be there. It's fairly self-explanatory, but those are the,
Where did you put this?
We got his handout, he wants our handout. I get it.
Hang on, did you put this on the iPad this afternoon?
no, this is, it was.
Ah,
I'm trying to avoid that. We had a deadline set for stuff going out on the iPads and
You're not doing very well.
trying to be disciplined
You're
about
really
it.
not. Sir, did you want to come up here?
I do.
Come on up.
I've heard this from two of my townships, active people in the library board, Karen Michaels and Kathy Foster Township. Sherry, yeah.
What's your name, sir?
John Sheridan.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to read this real quick. Is that okay?
Sure.
I don't know if you wanted to start. Do you want to
That's
give an
your call.
explanation? Do you want to go ahead and
Okay.
explain what's going on?
Yes. As you know, like so many other places, we had to be closed down for about a quarter last year. And our elevator was working okay. Wasn't, I mean, the greatest. I mean, it's 40 years old. Then when we shut down, it just sat. And seals dried out. And when we came back and started using the elevator, the doors would open slowly and it would give a little jerk when it first started out. And when it stopped, it'd give a jerk, which we ended up calling a technician. McNally is our contracted technician. And they got it so it doesn't do that hard jerk. But it's still, the doors are not moving. The gear that operates the speed of the door has been, it just isn't working anymore. And when he went to look at the mechanics of it, when he got to the closet where that has the controller, it's got fuses that are, they're old. They're the old tube fuses. They're about that long and about that big around. And it's a whole panel of them. And he just shook his head and he says, you guys need an upgrade. And because we have programs in our meeting room, which is in the basement. And we have older people and actually a volunteer for the Book Nook that they need an elevator. And I have at least two staff people who really don't want to use the elevator. They're afraid they're going to get stuck in it. So with the recovery money, we're asking because we feel this is a result of being inactive during the COVID. We're asking for a stipend from that Community Recovery Act money.
of $89,985.
Yep.
I guess I didn't realize, and I apologize, I didn't realize there's a basement in there.
Yeah. Full size basement, yeah. We have, the book nook is in one area, then we have a meeting room, which is quite large. And then we have a smaller where the literacy council used to meet before it went out of existence. And of course, we have a little entryway in there too. So, yeah.
Now, is the city, so this is in the city of West Branch as well. Have you talked to them? Are they willing to help with this as well?
Well, we just worked together to get the sidewalk replaced between our two buildings. And so they're not, I haven't talked to them specifically about the elevator, but we have talked about the sidewalk, which our share was over $5,600. So
In order to keep the building open, does this elevator need to be functioning for safety purposes?
to be ADA compliant, yes, it does.
Okay. Comments, commissioners, opinions? Commissioner Scott?
Is the basement designated a emergency shelter? By any chance?
Don't believe so. I may be wrong on that. But
I could put
I
more
know.
emphasis on egress. You know, normally during emergency, you don't use an elevator,
Right.
but ADA,
I have not seen any paperwork to that effect.
Okay.
But talking with the board, I get the feeling that yes, the basement is. But that's strictly talking with my board.
just trying to put more priority points on it myself,
Hmm.
in my way of thinking.
I don't think there's any true master list in this county of what are designated emergency shelters. There used to be back, way back, but I think it probably got lost in the transition of,
Back when we were gonna be bombed by the,
the Russians, yeah.
I remember those days. I did bomb drills. in
Commissioner
school, too.
Serbrook, what's your opinion?
You know what, it's a chunk of change, but I think it's something they definitely need. You know, if the city, you know, it's a district library, correct?
Right.
You know, so,
Yeah, it's not just the city facility.
right,
This isn't city owned,
it's,
No, we're a district library. We're our own entity.
right?
So how are you,
and how many,
They have a
you've got the
village.
city of West Branch, how many townships for
4, I believe. Yeah, 4.
for what? I'm sorry.
Ogemaw
townships? Ogemaw, West Branch,
Edwards.
and Horton?
Yes.
Or, right?
So how
I
are
pay
you,
a millage.
you have a millage?
Yes, we do.
I pay.
So do you have any
It
funding to help with this?
Well, in another letter I gave to Tim, half of our budget is from penal fines, used to be. Now, because of COVID, we lost, there were no road patrols, everybody stayed home. So the penal fines dropped and
I think it's half. I think it was almost half.
It's
The
like 30,
treasurer's office
it's
that
like
processes that
30,000.
calculation sends those checks to you. I think it was down by almost half
yes.
this year.
So we've already lost half of our penal fines, which was, so you might as well say we lost 25% of our budget already. So, you know, it's kind of dicey whether, you know, how much we can contribute. I mean, anything in excess, because there are just supply problems. If it goes above that amount, then we'll have to take it out of somewhere out of our pockets. We do have a rainy day fund, or not a rainy day. Our accountant wants us to have enough cash on hand, so if something should happen with our funding stream, we would have enough to operate the library for 6 months. If you really don't want to get into that. So,
I've reported at meetings about their loss of revenue with the penal. And Karen Michaels, the supervisor of Horton Township, brought it up to me, and I said, well, write a letter to the county about the ARPA funds, and we'll take a look at it.
Commissioner Ron?
Yeah, my main concern is ADA. You surely don't want somebody going down the elevator and getting stuck downstairs. Or stuck in an elevator for that matter. So,
Commissioner Becker?
So you're open right now, right?
We're open, yes, 6 days a week.
Okay. And is the elevator, is it operational at all right now?
It's still operational, but it's, active life of an elevator is 20 years. And we've got, we're on year 40, 41. So it's just sitting for that length of time caused it to deteriorate where it's, I would not consider it reliable. That's my own opinion. It's not a technician's opinion at all.
Has anybody looked to see if there's any grants available for this?
It just came to our attention last month, so we haven't had a chance to look for grants.
I wouldn't mind seeing it added on. I don't know how we're gonna do, we haven't even discussed how we're gonna do this. Are we gonna have a disqualification system as we go through all these projects? Because sooner or later, we're gonna get to a number that we're not gonna be able to afford. And we're gonna have to disqualify somebody.
We've actually begun gathering from other communities that they've already gotten to that point. We've gotten some very good examples. Probably your next meeting, I'll probably have those on your community whole agenda just to start sifting through. Some things clearly will not apply to us, but a lot of it will. And you'll see sometimes there are qualifications in there. Well, in this case, you've got a public entity that suffered a loss of revenue, no question. So they get a higher score than maybe a project that comes in that's just a nice project to have.
Yeah.
So there'll be that kind of criteria, and then it'll be up to individuals on how you want to weight it. Usually a 1 to 10 scale or 1 to 5 scale, and how you weight how well they match whatever the criteria is we're trying to fix. And then we can consolidate the scores and then you can.
Yeah, I guess I'm at the point where I'll say, let's add it to the list. I think it's high enough priority to be on the A list. Not that we have an A or B yet, you know.
I think we also need to look, I'll get a contact tomorrow with Mary from the EC. She has not exited quite yet, but I've seen some grants come through that I'm pretty sure that this would meet criteria for as well, but I will just touch base. I don't disagree this is needed, but it'd be really nice if we didn't have to do this entire 89,000.
Well, here's my thought.
Please.
Being you've got 5 entities, 4 townships, city of West Branch. And I think that once we develop our criteria, we should give additional weight to projects that will match. So I'm wondering if maybe if these townships weren't approached in the city of West Branch, say, hey, you kick in
Something,
89, you kick in 10%.
something.
You know, each one of you kick in 10% and the county foots the other 50%, for example.
We at least got to ask.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, again, they've got ARPA funds. Hopefully all of them applied for it and got some, you know. And I think that's a way of what we're trying to do at the state level is leveraging those ARPA funds across the board from not only, you know, the state, the county, the townships, and the cities. And if we can pool together and come together to help out a project like this, I think that's fantastic. That's the way it should be done. It's leveraging the monies, you know.
Agreed. So we will continue to discuss this moving forward. I'll reach out to Mary. See if any monies that we can get. What time frame are you looking at for this?
Till the elevator quits.
We could start the project by February.
Okay, so that gives us some time.
And if there are grants available, I'm at the library, just give a call, I'm there. And just let me know what the grants are and I can start writing them. unless you want to rate
Absolutely not.
it. They're fun.
So you have some experience?
I would contact your insurance
Perfect.
company and see if there's anything there that's insured as far as, I don't know.
It's the worst I can do, is say no.
Yeah,
Until it actually breaks down
Right.
okay.
We're trying to prevent that.
Well,
and if somebody is in it,
Well,
breaks down.
then the insurance is gonna really kick in, so they might want to do something in a
Be proactive.
proactive manner.
But they may be just looking at repairs. We're looking at replacement,
It's not total replacement. It's actually
an upgrade,
The upgrade.
a very
upgrade.
good upgrade versus, okay.
That's why I say maybe the insurance company may have an incentive here to put some money in now. You know, a few tens of thousands is gonna be a lot cheaper than what it's gonna cost for the injury claim that somebody stuck, the elevator drops the floor. Oh, no, I've seen this
We'll
movie.
put it on for the next committee of the whole as well and continue to gather information. Thank you. Thank you for your time. It was nice meeting you. And contact you at the library?
Yep.
Perfect. What's is the number, never mind.
It's not at the bottom. It should be at the bottom.
It is not. Can you give me the number so I don't have to Google it?
Just the address.
Just the address.
Okay, phone number is 345-2235.
Okay,
And the address is 119 North Fourth.
got that.
That's on the bottom.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Hi, thank you.
Nice meeting you. Is there anything else you want to talk about those funds or? Okay.
Nope.
Item 4, the Rifle River Intercounty Drain.
Okay, there is an email that I included in here from the drain commissioner. This meeting, recall the one in August was not noticed properly, so they've decided to have another meeting and they're going to hold it at the fairgrounds on December 9th at 6 o'clock. Commissioner Newbecker was kind enough to share with me that narrative that you see on the iPads from that prior meeting. And while I appreciate it's 136 pages and so maybe that's something that motivates you to want to read it. I've been through it. It was a page turner for me. So it's just kind of interesting to go through and read this. But there's one thing I just want to provide some clarification for. One of the attorneys mentioned that the confusion over the noticing requirements was the result of a glitch through the equalization department. And just want to let you know what that is. First of all, I did reach out to the attorney and asked exactly what was the glitch and what can we do to maybe overcome that. The reply was, and this is my paraphrasing it, that they would be happy to work with us on that project. And it had sort of a tone of, and there will be a fee to do that. And that's not what I was after. I want to know what was wrong with the data. I did talk to Randy about it, and it wasn't a problem so much with the data as it was with the engineering company's interpretation of what they'd received. They asked the equalization department for a record of all the property owners within certain jurisdictions. They have that. What happens in the way that the properties are reported on the database, and it's a database using our BSNA system, which the Spicer Group is very familiar with and totally has worked with in the past. We have a list of parcels that are outside of the incorporated areas of the county. Those you see on our webpage when you go to the GIS, you'll see all those parcels. You can click on those, see who owns it, see what the assessed values are, and so on. That data was all there, but what they did not access, which was in another folder, was the data that goes to the platted subdivisions. Those are recorded a little bit differently. Notices went out to everybody in that original group that were outside of the incorporated areas, but because they didn't open those other folders, none of those property owners received notice, and there was the flaw, and that's why they're going to need to have another meeting to meet the requirements of the statute. So not really a glitch with equalization so much as it was the interpretation of the data that was received by the engineering company. So I was kind of relieved to hear that there was no, software malfunction or any kind of skip on our part. So I'm pretty confident now everybody understands where all those files are. I don't know if notices have gone out yet or not, but when they do, hopefully everybody will be notified and then the hearing will be held. Now, as a board, I seem to recall we passed a resolution about this in opposition. And I think it would be, and I'd be happy to do it, would be very appropriate to attend that hearing and just enter that resolution into the record for the hearing. Now, originally I'm thinking there's no cost to the county as a result of this drainage district being expanded, but have since discovered that may not be accurate. There is potential that the county, we would be on the hook for something that's called an at-large fee for certain properties within the county. Not uncommon. It's not usually a huge cost, but it does end up being a cost that's assessed forever, for the life of the drainage district. So we do have a little bit of skin in the game potentially, depending on how whatever projects are being planned and how they intend to spread that assessment.
But by reading that, Brad, that was very extensive. Thank you very much. I found it very interesting as well. But by reading that, it definitely looks like that they do have a project, even though they denied that in mind, along with the special assessments. And I think we need to get ahead of this right now, because as Mr. Dematio told us, it definitely looks like this is something that is very well probable. So I think our job is we're here for the constituents, and this is going to impact possibly a lot of constituents. And Mr. Dematio did state when he was here that there is some things that we can do if this does get passed. And I think we need to get ahead of this versus I think we need to be very proactive here. Constituents are going to have to pay for the special assessment. And then if this is passed, more obviously money. So I did talk to Greg today. Greg, are you on the phone? He was supposed to be. I did touch base with Greg on this today and let him know that this was going to be discussed, and we were going to be asking for his input, because I think we need to hopefully address this before December 9th. Comments, commissioners?
I'd love to know how much this transcript cost.
How much what?
How much it cost this transcript cost? And who paid for it?
Well,
Transcripts are not cheap.
And the who paid for it part, actually the drainage district will pay for that. Even though they don't technically have the new district yet, the way the statute is set up, is an intercounty drain. I mean, there's literally a fund that's already been collected somewhere, and obviously not by us, and it'll be charged back there. But yeah, that's was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So do you know anything about this as far as things we can do on a county level? I mean, can you sue them?
No,
Can you, how do we appeal it? What do we do?
I'll just sum it up by saying it this way: whatever we do, we will lose in the end. That's the way the drain code is set up. These districts end up operating like their own mini municipalities, usually with the single drain commissioner at the head of it. But these intercounty drains, there'll be looks like about a 3-person intercounty drain board, but they literally have the last word on everything, on governance of it, on projects that come through, on what the assessment rates are going to be. County boards have very little to say when it comes to that. And that's been a point of contention at many of the MAC conferences over the years, particularly when we get controversial drain projects that go in and commissioners realize just how little authority they have and how little influence they have over the drain commissioners. Usually then an outcry to amend the drain code to change that. But in 35 years that I've been in local government, no one's been able to change any of it.
So there's not, if this gets voted for approval, 2 out of the 3, there's nothing that we can do.
I mean, you can certainly file a suit in the courts and argue your case, but unless there is something like a technical flaw, like the hearing had this last time, if it's otherwise done by statute, the court will have no choice but to allow it to continue.
It just seems like this was kind of a, with our drain commissioner not being able to be a part of this decision, it just seems like this deck was kind of stacked.
And there are definitely some very well-placed comments from the public in that transcript about the lack of representation from Ogemaw County, yet Ogemaw County would compose 2/3 of the new district. Yeah, there's a lack of fairness in that. But again, the way it's set up, and again, like the chair said, I suspect there is a project in mind.
Well, they wouldn't go through all this.
Correct. That's what my township, I'm sorry, that's what my townships discussed, the amount of money that went into that first meeting. The individuals that they had there that they had to pay, obviously, and now they're gonna pay for a second meeting, let alone postage. And I mean, this is bad. This is very bad. I'm sorry, Commissioner Becker, go ahead.
No, I was, I mean, as far as the statute is concerned, what about previous, costs that they've racked up already?
Well,
How can
again,
they
Retroactively
Yeah.
charge.
how can they collect from us on things that happened before the district was even established?
so I'll give you an example of
I mean, like that previous meeting?
Yeah, any kind of,
I can't.
well, what will happen though, even with the previous meeting, assuming that this new intercounty drainage district ends up being established, any costs incurred will be charged to that district. Now, there's discussion in there about $10,000 per mile, and it did sort of appear, at least in my read of the text, that was sort of the emphasis of the group that ran the meeting was, well, it's only $10,000. No, I'm sorry, it's not. And that's just to frame it that way is just wrong. What will happen then? So once you've got your assessment district set up, any of these costs will then be put back to that district. They will pay for it. I am absolutely convinced there are other projects in mind, so the assessment will go up well beyond the $10,000. There were numbers thrown all over the place, millions. Yeah, I mean, there literally could be millions of dollars, in play, depending on what those plans are. And I'll give you another example. There was a drain called the Montgomery Drain in the Lansing area. Now, if you're familiar with Lansing, you may be familiar with Frandor.
Oh, yeah.
That area.
Shopping center.
Yeah, there's a lot of development going on just south of there along Michigan Avenue. The Ingham County Drain Commissioner set up what was called the Montgomery Drain that encompassed Lansing, East Lansing, and a bit of Lansing Township in that district. This was a project or a district that has about a 10-year life before they did anything on the ground. But then they had to go through. They went through the lawsuits. Frandor sued. Lansing Township sued. We don't want to be assessed any of this. At the end of the day, the drain's in. You're down there today. You'll see portions of that area that have been reclaimed, if you will. It looks really nice, but now there's a forever assessment district in that area. That mall's paying on it. MDOT pays a large part. The US 127 runs right through it. But a project like that, with those kind of dollars fighting it, and yet at the end of the day, the drain commissioner even told me this is going to fly. It's going to be approved. It might be 6 more months down the road than what I would project because we've got to go through the court proceedings, but it will be approved. And each time he's been right on each one of those drains. And that's a huge drain down there. It literally is millions of dollars and a lot of improvements that went on. Not saying they weren't needed, but that's the power of the drain commissioner.
No, I thought when Mr. Demacia was here, I thought he was pretty clear, and I misunderstood him, that there was things that we could do to attempt to stop this. And he sounded pretty positive, because if we didn't, next will be,
Well, we could probably go to an appellate court or something like that, but that's not to say that it's gonna fly. You can try.
but how he made it sound as if we don't, next will be the, what's the river? Oh, or the stream,
Tittabawassee River
no,
could be one of them.
down from me.
Mhm.
It'll come.
The Au Gres,
Gray.
the Au Gres
Yes.
River, right.
So
Right.
that's why he encouraged it, if this does,
And Tittabawassee is another river because it,
that this will just continue.
right, well, especially Tittabawassee could be a focus because of the dam issues. The Tittabawassee comes all the way up into Ogemaw County.
The headwaters of Tittabawassee are in Ogemaw. It starts here.
Yeah, so they could link everybody together and say, well, everybody within wherever the water touches is gonna pay for dams. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that that's set in stone, but that's a possibility, We already have we're involved in the Whitney Drain District.
Mhm.
And part of our county pays an assessment to pay for that Whitney Drain because the water originates in Ogemaw County.
Good Garden Hill Township.
And yeah, right. And it goes all the way, that water goes all the way out the Whitney Drain and into Lake Huron. You know,
So they're basically just having these meetings because they have to.
They have to, and I think maybe our drain commissioner is just hoping that it would be stopped at this level. So then literally this is it. You've got the 3-person board. If 2 vote no, then it will be done. But as you read through that transcript, there's very little optimism that will be the
you
outcome.
know, and we've dealt with this constantly. I mean, all this really came to light since the last election, even that how much the division of elected officials, what this board can do with elected officials like Karen and Breck in their offices. We can't dictate everything that goes on in their offices because they're elected people.
We just control their money, that's
There's
it.
separate boards out there. 911 split off. EMS is split off. The drain commissions are split off. People gotta understand, the board of county commissioners are handcuffed. We don't have that much. We can't rule with a hammer and say, oh, this is the way it goes. They might run to us expecting that, but you can't do it. The road commission is separate. We don't get a chance to say how they're gonna maintain the roads or anything else, even though everybody thinks they.
I
we
think
do
you're
that.
missing my point was that I hear what you're saying, but we also need to try because we are the only board in the county that can help the most amount of constituents, which this is going to affect by looking at that transcript. This is going to affect a very large amount of constituents in this county. And showing up at that, from what I get out of that transcript, showing up at that meeting and voicing their concerns is not going to do a whole lot of good. I guess,
Well, it was unusual in my read and I wasn't there. So this is all
Right.
conjured in my mind, but it did seem that board that hosted the meeting was a bit combative with, at least at the front end of the meeting, with some of the comments. And that's not what public comment is about, as you all know. You're here to listen to the comments of the public and not necessarily cross swords with anybody. And there definitely was an air of we've already studied this and we believe it needs to pass, coming from that group.
but aren't we at the other areas that we just discussed, aren't we somewhat at a disadvantage because our drain commissioner can't participate because of his 2 properties?
Well, you can't participate and there's not another representative from Ogemaw County on that 3-person panel that's advocating for Ogemaw County. And that's, there was one comment in there about taxation without representation. That's a very good example, although they will say, the Gladwin County Drain Commissioner is representing you. Okay, you can say
But
that.
by those rules, even if it was somebody else in Ogemaw County, they couldn't live within that district. It'd have to be somebody that lived out there past you, that has nothing.
It's not going to impact them, right? I got a letter, it impacts me.
Well, there's somebody past you on M55 that isn't affected. And that's the person they'd have to get, because that's the way the rules are laid out, Or like up in Foster, there's so much Foster isn't affected. That person in Ogemaw County have to come from there. And it doesn't make any sense because but same with the Aranac and the Eagle guy. The other guy is the state guy, right? I don't even think he lives even close to us, does he?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, it's a funny thing. I don't like this. I mean,
But our drain commissioner
why-
is disqualified because he's got properties in Ogemaw and Aranac. Am I wrong there?
He has properties that are in the
Proposed
map
district.
district.
Proposed district.
So he can't.
So he would be impacted by any assessment decision. So therefore they've removed him from the equation.
And I don't like why they did that, because if that was the case on our board, we wouldn't be able to make any decision at all because we all live in the county,
Mhm.
Commissioner Serbrook. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, I do not.
So there's no way to get ahead of this. There's nothing we can do before
Other than
December
what we've already
9th.
done to pass the resolution.
And again, I would suggest, and it would be very appropriate for the chair to do this, to go to that hearing and literally read that resolution into the record. And so the next transcript, you'll actually see it, recorded in there. But to let the three-person panel know whatever influence this board might have on them, that's an opportunity to at least exercise that influence.
I plan on attending. Okay. We discussed it.
Yep.
I didn't like what you had to say.
That kind of day.
Here's what it
We
is.
run into that problem with quite a few different things.
I still just, and I'll reach out to Mr. Dematio. I didn't get that feeling from him, but I will reach out to him and have a conversation with him at some point in time. 4D, Senate Bill 597 and Senate Bill 598.
Okay, you see a lot of the material in there from Michigan Association of Counties, and you've also seen some resolutions come through from other counties over the last few months over these bills. And they would, in effect, just paraphrasing all the material Max said, it would in effect privatize a lot of what the community mental health agencies are doing right now. I did receive an email last week from the Osabo Valley Community Mental Health that serves Ogemaw County, asking for each of their three counties to send in their past resolutions opposing these health bills or these House bills. I responded by saying, what resolution? The reply was they sent resolutions out, he thought, in June or July. I scoured my emails. I have nothing relating to that. But what I'd be happy to do if you wanted to go on record in opposition to those bills is go back to some of the prior meeting agendas and pull one of the other county resolutions, paste Ogemaw County on it, and then you can go on record in opposition if you so choose. This is something that was in the MAC legislative update, the last one last week that they did, and they're really promoting these resolutions of opposition. And again, you saw the material in there to back it up. So if you were so inclined, I'll be happy to prepare that resolution and have it ready for Tuesday.
Here.
I read through all of it. The bad thing is it does have some advantages, just because, and I'm going to talk from a provider standpoint here, just because of our local CMH is just the difficulty with getting individuals in. You have to have Medicaid. And I see that this eliminates that and brings in more private. But in the long run, it does decrease access. It'd just be nice if we could all just
Good one.
come together and do it all. But that is truly a struggle in this community. If you don't have Medicaid, there is nothing local. And they do not give any type of, what I'm looking for. I mean, that's the end of the story. So they don't bend it all there. So I did see some positives in this, even though the don'ts is much longer than the do's, but it just, again, would be much better if we could just come together and do something but anyways. I think I looked at the support list. I mean, it's huge. See all these?
The bad outweighs the good, in my opinion, unfortunately.
It does, but I just had to say that there was some positives about this, just they're minimal.
I don't disagree with you. And I know, also Valley Community Mental Health, they are struggling to take and get employees, so even the services they can offer to those that qualify are, not that great because of staffing issues.
It's about to get a lot worse.
And I don't know if they privatize, if it would be any better, quite frankly. I mean, would you be able to take and recruit those people that would provide those services to Northern Michigan? I don't know.
Because their reimbursement would be better.
Yeah.
Your reimbursement from the private entities are much better than from the state.
So why isn't it happening now?
What?
Why don't we have private mental health services? You go to, there's all sorts of counseling services and stuff in Saginaw Bay City. Why don't, if they could get reimbursed at a decent rate from private insurance, why isn't somebody operating one right now?
Do you want to take that leap?
No, I'm just, no, that's my point is if it's so lucrative, then why isn't it already here?
No, it's a huge, huge need.
I agree with you 100%. Believe me, 110%. I agree. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Anyways, so you're gonna prepare a resolution. Any comments, commissioners? Did you guys read through this? Yes.
I have not read through it, so I don't know. I've been out of town.
You have some time between now and Thursday to see if you want to add anything?
No, on Tuesday.
Till Tuesday?
Tuesday. I better get that right from the commissioner.
You throw me off.
You're gonna be here having Thanksgiving by yourself.
Possibly. Anyways, okay. Is nothing to add to that, guys? What do we got next? Where's my agenda? We have the item E, COVID-19 mandatory vaccine / testing update.
Okay, when I first put the draft together, this agenda, we'd gotten just a deluge of material that said that there was going to be a mandate, that it was going to be effective in January, and by December, we were going to need to have a plan together on how we were going to address that. Well, as you probably know, since then, this has landed in the courts. It's currently in the Sixth Circuit in Cincinnati for decision on whether or not this is a constitutional act on the part of the federal government. And of course, whatever that decision is, it likely will get appealed to the Supreme Court. So we might be a ways out yet before we actually have to act on this. What concerned me with the last release of information that had come from Washington was telling employers of 100 or more, yeah, this might be in the court system, but you better have your plans ready because we're going to run with this. Well, they've since backed off a little bit on that by saying, no, we're not going to enforce anything until the courts have acted. And we have this quirk in Michigan too, where this is an OSHA regulation. We have our own state agency with my OSHA, so there's going to be possibly some lag there. You may have read the article in the legislative update last week about that process, but it only looks like it'd be about a 10-day lag. It would eventually end up in the state OSHA guidelines as well. So what is this? Well, it's literally an either or. The way this rule was written, either our employees are vaccinated or they're going to go through a weekly testing regimen. And then comes the whole administration of that. Certainly, we could ask for any vaccine cards that our employees have, and we can put those in the files. That group's done. What about the group that wants to go through the testing? We're going to administer it. How are we going to verify, et cetera, et cetera? So those are the kinds of things that we would want to spend some time on if this was going to happen. I've been hesitant to do anything more with it until I know it's going to happen. Skeptical, but this was on the agenda because when this was drafted, literally, it looked like we were going to have to act. And
I understand the employer has to bear the expense of the testing as well, correct?
That's the way it looks. Now, I've seen some opinions just recently here, just in the last few days, that suggest otherwise. I'm here to tell you, if we're going to require our employees to pay, $20 for a test every Monday, I think that's an even worse outcome. Because now we're going to have to collect that. The employee isn't going to want to pay that. Is it a payroll deduction issue? Is it pre-tax? All that. Look, we don't need to take on that kind of a problem unless we're absolutely ordered to do it. I know some places are. Ann Arbor's requiring vaccinations. The police union down there just today, it was reported, lost their case in court fighting that. So some communities are doing it. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we take that on. But if we're ordered to, we'll be in that boat. But that's why it's on the agenda. I was worried we were going to have to do something. We don't have to do anything right now, but it's still out there. It's not gone away. So just monitor what the courts do.
So just kind of an odd question. I wonder if you are ordered to, but you choose not to. What happens then?
I heard just at a Zoom meeting this afternoon, $15,000 per day fine, which we don't want either.
Holy moly.
You were going to send out that survey. Did you not? Did you?
Sent it out. I got very little response, but between Karen and myself, it looks like about 50% vaccinated. So for 2 departments.
We're the only 2 that responded, Tim and myself.
Well, doesn't that say something right there?
Well, it doesn't. I certainly, I respect the department head's hesitancy to ask their employees, are you vaccinated? But who even wants to open that can of worms?
Every department.
When did it get sent?
Email
weeks
last
ago?
week.
Last week? That's why.
There was a lot of words in
I
it
was the only
too.
one who-
My last week was.
I get a little.
Hours back tomorrow.
So just stay tuned.
So just stay
Because
tuned.
we did get a correspondence last week from Jackson County. It was Jackson County, correct?
Right.
I read it. I was intrigued by it. What did that correspondence mean to you?
And you're gonna have another one that you'll see next week from another county, similar type thing, but we're seeing, Jackson, Hillsdale, Muskegon, these counties are saying, we're not gonna ask our employees, we're not gonna participate. But I'm telling you right now, $15,000 a day is incentive enough to maybe reconsider that. That obviously will add up in a hurry. Yeah, I again, respect, but the positions those counties are taking, I think right now, even for us to take that type of position, maybe not in the best interest of the county, and just let it alone until the courts have determined what we have to do. And then, I want to say just comply, but yeah, just comply.
But I mean, isn't that saying, so them forming that resolution and sending that where they sent that, to me, it didn't, I mean, obviously it did state that they weren't going to comply, but when it push comes to shove and they're saying $15,000 per day, obviously they might change that. But didn't that show, what's the wording I'm looking for here? Didn't that, wherever they sent that correspondence, didn't that show what their position was? So hopefully, I shouldn't say hopefully, going forward, that showed that they were not in favor of what was occurring. So that also should mean something when it gets to the representatives, the
Well,
officials.
there's probably a bunch of train commissioners up there running on it, so.
So again, I
gonna go
think
there
I mean, it's no different than what you're asking us to do here with this bill.
It's one thing to say, we don't favor that rule. It's something else to say, we don't favor it, and if you pass it, we're not going to comply. Yeah, I think that's a step too far.
Yeah.
That's fair. But, is making a statement wrong? What's your guys' opinion on this, commissioners?
I'd be in favor of a resolution that says we're opposed to it.
You would be, is what you
I
said?
would be in favor of
Okay.
a resolution.
I'm asking, we
stating
haven't
that.
had this conversation.
I would not be in favor of one saying, well, if you do enact it, screw you kind of thing.
Well,
I think that's counterproductive, but I mean, let's voice our opinion and say, hey, I'm not in favor of it.
I'll say even beyond that, instead of saying we're not going to comply, we will take legal action against anything that you imply on us.
It's not gonna do.
Doesn't mean that we're.
It's already,
Win,
it's
but-
already in the federal system.
It's not gonna go any higher.
There's a lot bigger than us and a lot deeper pockets
We'll support,
fighting it than little old Ogemaw County.
we'll support legal action.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, I wanted some resolutions for other things. I don't have a problem putting a resolution together, but right now, this thing is done at the federal court. Just hang loose and see what comes of it. That's not, we're not gonna lead any crusade ourselves. I think
That
this.
kind of attitude.
Yeah.
I disagree with you right
This
now,
is just a fight, this is just a fight I don't want to fight right now.
and that's fair, but I disagree with you. I
don't
think
think
that
I don't think it's a fight. I think it's just us voicing our opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
whether we support
What's
whether
it gonna-
it supports what we're going on or what's we're not going on. Because right now, this is what everybody's talking about every second of every minute of every day. Trust me, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of stress that individuals are having to feel like they have to make in the next 30 days or 60 days, whether or not to feed their family, leave their job, or to stand up for what their beliefs and thoughts are. And I think that this is important, just as important as what we just talked about with this other 597 and 59B. And I am in favor of drafting a resolution of what our group thoughts, I don't know, are of what's taking place currently.
I can tell you that I've had a couple people, more than one, reach out to me about the district court position, asking if it's mandatory. And they're not gonna apply because they don't know whether whether it is or not.
This is gonna
It's
impact
gonna affect a lot
huge.
of things.
Is it
But
a position, there's a mandate?
Right now it's on,
mandated now?
right now it's on
Not
hold.
right
That's what
now.
we just said. It was
Oh.
going to be. That's why
But
this is
it's
on
not
here.
mandated by us. We're not mandating now, so go ahead and apply.
Right, but when they made that phone call, she might have had to have said as of January 4th, yes.
If
I
the
mean,
law of land comes down and says you have to do it, you gotta do it.
No, you don't have to do it. You can make a choice.
We're gonna have to enforce it.
$15,000.
If they,
One way or the
if they
other.
tell us to enforce it, we're gonna have to enforce it. You know that.
I think right now I am in favor of drafting a resolution as far as what Ogemaw County Commissioners are thoughts are on this. So I am not in favor of this. I am in favor of the vaccine. Don't get me wrong. I support that, especially as a healthcare provider, but I am a pro-choice. So
Choice.
I am
It's
pro-choice.
an individual decision. Should be left to the individual.
So
Well,
I have been
I
vaccinated.
agree with you, all except for the vaccine. I still don't believe in the vaccine. I think there's other medical treatments that can treat it. I haven't seen enough proof that this vaccine is doing enough. So. It's my
I
opinion.
tried.
It's my
You just
opinion.
don't listen to me.
So I definitely support the
Resolution.
Same,
Commissioner Bond,
same place,
what?
the resolution.
Okay, so can we drop that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. And you'll have Greg look at it to make sure, obviously, it doesn't get us in any legal trouble.
Yeah, I'll make sure
Just a
that,
resolution.
Yeah.
so there won't be any targets painted anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else to that, guys? You keep us
Nope.
informed.
Yes.
Next to the KCC millage. I'm trying. Are you listening? Okay, so I want you, I really am honestly trying. So what I did, drafted a letter and I sent it to, I went to the clerk's first. I went to Tim's office. He sent me in the direction of a election specialist is what he recommended. So I came down and seen Breck and got an email. Somebody at the Lansing level. So just, I wasn't 100% clear on what my goal was here. So at the end of this letter, this is the question that I have. It says, due to the original campus closing and moving to a different location, is it possible to do a referendum in the local form for Ogemaw County, with the goal being for Ogemaw County to withdraw from the Kirtland College District? So unfortunately, I have not, and I have if anybody would like a copy of this letter. I've reached out to them twice. I sent them 2 various emails. I have not heard back. I called the Bureau as well. I called your office yesterday and got a number for the Bureau from Diana. I left a message there. I have not heard anything back. So I called Greg today. I sent him this letter as well. And his response was, Jenny, I do have an answer for this. Can you please give me until Friday to get the material together? And he attached, Rebecca, please put on the to-do list. So that's where I'm at. I'm working on it. I'm trying. And once I get my resources, I'm going to direct them to you. So again, I'm just trying to get you the resources and the answer to that question. A constituent brought this to me, and this individual is helping me with this as well. So hopefully, I'm trying. So as soon as Greg gets me this, and I don't know how else to get, I sent another email out today too, to a election.gov. It was a very general email, or address, elections@michigan.gov. So I sent that there as well. The other individual was Lori Boris.
Yeah, I can't say that. The elections is a general that will get routed to whoever it needs to get to. Probably will get to Lori though.
She's a tough one to get to some response. So
Did you try,
it's the only contact you provided. me.
yep, that's right, because we said that she'd be easy. Dugan.
You didn't have an email for that one.
No, but I do now.
Okay, so get me that email. I will continue to try and keep you updated. That's my question. Do you understand my question? Because I think I've had a couple conversations with you about it.
I understand it, but I think it's gonna go through like it did before when Gary Clacking was here. They sent a letter out to Lansing and it took them a whole year and then they came back and said, can't do nothing about it. So I feel like we're in the same situation.
But was that the question that was being presented?
Pardon me?
Was that the question that was being presented?
I'm pretty sure it was. There was a letter written and everything. I can pull it out and actually send that to you as well.
Was it related to a referendum and getting this?
I'm not positive, but right off the top of my head, I have to pull the letter out.
Okay, so I will keep you informed, but again, and Greg's supposed to be sending me something tomorrow. He attached somebody else on it that will probably put it together, so I'm assuming I should get it. Okay,
Yes.
okay,
I am forwarding an email to you right now from her with her email
Okay.
information.
5, public comment. This is for any items, 3 minutes or less. The rules are posted on there. Is there any public comment in the room?
Can I make one comment?
Come on up, my friend.
It's just regarding what you guys spoke about regarding these shots that possibly are gonna get mandatory. I feel, this is my opinion, the government needs to stay out of the business. They don't need to tell us what we should and shouldn't be doing. It's our body. And to tell an employer of 100 people or more that, you've gotta get it done or you're gonna get a fine. I think that's uncalled for. The government literally needs to stay out of it. Because I'm not gonna get shot, I'm gonna tell you right now, because to me, it's just experimental. They're coming out with pills that are experimental. And I know some people that had the shot, they got COVID. I know some people that had a shot, got COVID, died. No, I'm not getting a shot, but it should be our right, the way we want it. No one can come and tell me what I'm going to do with my body. I just want to let you know my thoughts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any public comment on the phone?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Your name, sir?
Kurt Scheiberger.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was under the impression that the school resource officer was going to be discussed at this meeting tonight. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I still have a couple questions. What is our school resource officer source of funding? Are the yearly background checks being conducted? And has the mandatory training taking place? I continue to wait for a response. Thank you.
You did ask us at the last meeting.
And I did follow up, and my apologies for not putting it on the discussion item. So let me set the framework for you. First of all, the county's involvement in the funding the county receives is through a contract with the school. Just like any other contract that we might have with any other vendor, here's a service that's been requested. Here's a contract that outlines the criteria that are necessary. Has to be a certified officer, have to be, whatever other criteria are in there. And our participation in that is strictly with that contract. We provide the officer, the school provides the county with the funding. That's it. Where does the school get their funding? Not sure. Did talk to the undersheriff about that. He had a decent idea of what program is funding that. It was discussed at our last meeting that it was through a COPS grant. It is not. A COPS grant is something that was born out of the Clinton administration. So we're going back a few years with the intention of getting more officers on the streets. Not sure if any schools used COPS grant program for a school resources officer, but the Ogemaw school does not. It is another source of federal money, but not a COPS grant. Now, as far as the other criteria are concerned about the annual review and other criteria, I don't have the contract memorized. There are elements of that in there, but that's going to be up to the school to perform that review with the sheriff and determine what other direction they may want to go or if the officer is qualified and so on. But that's, again, a product of the contract and not tied to any federal monies that the county is responsible for. I don't know if that answers the question from Mr. Scheiberger.
In a way, I would argue that the COPS 2020 grant and the COPS 2021 grant that looks like our current memorandum of understanding. You're speaking of a contract. That's what we have right now. That is not being followed. I cannot get an answer from the superintendent on why that's not being followed. I was hoping the commissioners could get with the sheriff's office to figure out why that contract's not being followed. I'm sorry, not a contract, memorandum of understanding.
And I'll be happy to be the go-between to make sure that happens. That again, the contract with the officer itself, there is conversation in the memorandum that does call for that collaboration to go on. Now, who's responsible for doing that? Don't know, but I think we can get to the bottom of that, working with the sheriff and the superintendent.
I am pretty familiar with the memorandum, and it does require a 3-member committee from both sides on that. And I can see no evidence that that has ever taken place since this school resource officer current memorandum of understanding that it goes back to, I believe, 2015 or 16. So just keeping them accountable.
Okay, happy to follow up and do what we need to do.
So we put this on the next committee of the whole.
Sure.
We definitely don't want to run into any trouble. Any other public comment? Any other public comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Support.
all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion adjourned meeting adjourned at 7:11. Hey, 7:11.